Hi, Elaine again. Growing up Catholic and his loving touch. So here's another story, and this one also revolves around the Blessed Virgin Mary, Jesus' mom. This one's about my grandfather, my dad's dad, the Italian side. And I already told you the story about his being arrested as a spy, and he was cleared of that. This is the story that broke my grandfather completely with his faith with God. It was a day like any other. My grandmother had gone to New York with her brother and sister-in-law, and because a lot of their family members were still in New York. Sorry. A day like any other, and I was just maybe 2 years old. My sister was 3, and my brother was 4, probably 7. My older brother. My younger brother didn't exist yet. So anyways, I'm sorry. I know I make pauses, and I'm kind of sorry because my mind is thinking of the correct words, and I don't want to write it down. I don't want to read it. I just want it to flow from my heart and my spirit. This day, like any other, the news came that my grandmother and her brother and sister-in-law were all killed in a car accident. My dad said he was working on the railroad at the time, and at the time of my grandmother's death, he said it was like somebody had punched him in the stomach and he fell to the ground. And it was the day that my grandmother died. So the news came, and even though I was only 2, I do remember my dad picking me up. And I do remember the 3 caskets in a row. And my dad picked me up, and he said, Elaine, kiss your grandma. Well, she wasn't my grandma laying there, and it just, I'll just never forget it. I know I was only 2, but I will never forget it. I will never forget the feeling I had and hearing everybody crying, and it was a horrible time for everyone. Most of all, my grandfather. My grandfather went into a deep depression and just seemed to give up on everything. He stopped going to church. He stopped praying. Pretty much all he did was, in the summertime, he would sit under this big willow tree. It wasn't a backyard, it was a side yard. And I just remember him sitting there and crying, smoking, and drinking wine. My grandfather did a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking. I wasn't close to him. No one was. He pulled away from everything and everybody. At the time, we were living in the upstairs duplex. It was a duplex, and he was living on the single floor. with my aunt and cousin. And I remember how angry they would get because his personal hygiene was horrible. And if the sink, they had two kitchens. There was a basement kitchen in the summertime, and I only remember if the sink was filled so that they could wash the dishes or something, my grandfather would could have cared less. If he had to spit, he'd spit in there. And I remember my aunt just getting so upset with him, and you know, it was a true feeling. It was, I mean, he just didn't care. Well, years went by and Grandpa never changed. And my oldest brother, Rick, he would always go sit beside my grandpa. And I'd be watching Rick go sit beside him underneath that willow tree. And I always wondered what they were talking about. And well, Rick was talking about Jesus to my grandfather. And my brother just kept saying he wasn't going to give up on Grandpa, because Grandpa needed to be happy again. He needed to start living again. So my brother, you know, made it his mission to bring my grandpa back to the Lord. So now Grandpa was 65, and it was Lent. And it was like a tradition with our family, my mom and dad and us 3 kids, that during Lent we would say the rosary every night together. And my brother Rick, he won like a candle, and it was of the Blessed Virgin, like in a grotto, and on the back there was a small candle that illuminated the little wax candle or figure. And every night my brother would light that little candle behind the little wax statue, and the lights would go out and we would pray the rosary together. And we all knelt. And after the rosary was finished, there was one prayer my brother always said. And we would say that prayer and amen, and we wouldn't pray together again till the next night. Well, my brother asked my grandfather to come and pray with us the rosary, and my grandfather didn't at first. But one day my brother Rick again asked him and said, "Grandpa, we're going to wait for you. We're not even going to say the rosary until you get here." So we waited this one night, and my mom said, "Rick, Grandpa's not going to come, sweetie. Let's just start saying the rosary." And Rick said, "No, Mom, he's going to come." And suddenly we heard my grandfather's steps on the stairway coming up to the upstairs apartment. Really kind of like a ranch house. But anyways, and my grandfather came. Nobody said a thing. Just Rick, he said, "Grandpa, You don't have to kneel, sit here. But my grandfather surprised us all as he went behind the chair and leaned on the chair and knelt. My brother Rick went and lit that little candle behind the wax statue of Mary, and we all said the rosary together. At the end, we all sat down, and I was in awe that my grandpa was there. And my mom asked my grandpa if he wanted a cup of coffee, or, you know, and my grandfather surprised us all when he said, "Beatrice, you make me hot chocolate, cocoa?" And my mother said, "Yes, I'll make you a hot chocolate." And so Grandpa drank the hot chocolate, and we just made small talk. And then he went downstairs. Well, the next night, my grandfather came back upstairs. Did the same thing as he did the night before. Rick lit the candle. We all said the rosary. And that little candle lasted as long as the rosary. And it would go out. It was kind of like a birthday candle. And my mom asked my grandfather again, "Would you like something to drink?" He said, "Beatrice, would you make me a hot cocoa?" And of course my mom did. He drank it, we talked, and he went back down. The third night, Grandpa came back. Everything was the same. Only once he got his hot chocolate, he said to my mother, something happened last night, Beatrice." He said, "I lay in bed and the Madonna." Now in Italian, they called the Madonna, who was Mary, the mother of Jesus. And he said, "The Madonna, she appeared to me." And he said behind kind of like a curtain, he said, "She appeared to me. She say nothing to me, I say nothing to her, but we know." That left us all kind of spooked, to be truthful. Was my grandfather okay? He was seeing the Blessed Virgin. Next night, same thing happened. The candle was lit. Grandpa was there. We all said the rosary. Again, he asked for hot chocolate. And then again, he said, "Beatrice, I see Madonna again last night. She no speak it to me, I no speak it to her, but we know." Well, I really want to ask my grandfather, well, what do you know? But, you know, I needed to be respectful and let my curiosity stay with me. And I'm sure all my family wanted to ask him that. So, and that night, after Grandpa told us that again, I forgot to say that the candle went out before we were able to say the last prayer. There was a miracle with that candle, and I'll tell it later. Maybe I should tell it now. Well, this one night, Rick, after we said the prayer, the candle was flickering. It was gonna go out, and my brother said he wanted to say a different prayer at the end, and he had it in his desk in his room. And my mother said, Rick, the candle's going out. Let's just say the last prayer. And he said, no, I want to find it. And so Marianne, my sister, and I could say it with him. So he had to go get it where he had it written down. And Mom said, no, Rick, the candle's going out. And he said, no, Mom, Mother Mary will keep it going till we're done. Well, this light was just flickering, and it was getting dimmer and dimmer, and it was dark, and I got scared, and my sister got scared, but it didn't go out. And my brother came back after probably looking for this prayer for 3 minutes, and he came back and he knelt between my sister and I, and we all said the prayer. And in all truth, that little candle brightened as we said that last prayer. And on Amen, it went out. Okay, so I started yelling, turn the lights on. Turn the lights on. I was like really spooked that this happened. So anyways, I just kind of did a little sideways because it was an interesting story. True stories. So when Grandpa had his hot chocolate that night, and he told us about the Madonna, and I remember the next morning going and I went to school, and then my sister and I and my brother were called out of the school. Now this time I was 11, my sister was 12, and my brother was 4 years older than me. And I'm really trying to remember because, yeah, okay, so my grandfather was 65. So we were all pulled out of school, and we were taken to a neighbor's house. Not my brother Rick, he was much older, so and I couldn't figure out why we were at our neighbor's house, and I just kept saying to them, something's wrong at home, right? Something's wrong. And they tried to, change topic and that. And I just remember saying to them, did my grandpa die? That was the only thing I could think of, and it was in my head. So anyways, it was. My grandfather did not get up that morning for breakfast. And my uncle had come over because my dad was at work, but he was called home. And my uncle went to wake up my grandfather, and my grandfather had died. And my grandfather had the rosary in his hand. And we thought, he kept saying that the Madonna came to him, and she no speak it to me, I no speak it to her, but we know. Well, my grandfather did find God back. He did go back to the Lord. He had gone back to church. He had come up and said the rosaries. And he had the Blessed Virgin appear to him. And then we thought, my grandfather died in his sleep. And we kind of really believed, I believe it to this day, that his Madonna Mother Mary came back to get him. My grandpa was said to have died of a brain aneurysm, and it was very comforting to know that Grandpa had made his peace with God and that he was with his beloved Anna again. So there's more to this story, but this is the core of what happened to Grandpa. And after all was said and done, and after his funeral, we just kind of we didn't really talk, but when we did say the rosary, we remembered Grandpa. We remembered his Madonna, and remembered that we believe she took him home to her son. So that's the story of my grandfather at that time. And I'm going to leave you with that. I'm trying not to make the stories long. It's just, I'm trying to put it in a nutshell. And I'm not sure I'm getting the feelings across. Anyways, I'm going to say goodbye now. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to my channel. It's right there. And please like. And if you're new, go back to the very beginning of my videos. They're not perfect. They're, a lot of times I'll watch them and I don't like the way I'm talking, like the way I speak. But it gives you a lot of information as we go on. Okay, that's it. My daughter's will be working from home, and I won't get back to the computer until next week. But until then, there's these 2 more stories. So, God bless you. Stay home, stay safe, and remember, God's in control, and we will all get through this. My heart aches for the pain that this COVID-19 has caused to many, many families who have lost loved ones. And I pray for all of you as we go through this pandemic, horrific time. But just remember that this too shall pass. This too shall end. And everything that we fear or worry about, will be lost again, because finances will return. Everything will get back to a normal. I just pray that we've all learned some lessons, especially with the way the earth is healing itself. And, pollution has not stopped, but, So, let's keep each other in our prayers as we go through this time. Be kind. My daughter just went grocery shopping and has asked many people if they needed groceries, because she would pick them up if she could find them. And that's what you need to do. Stay safe. You can stay safe in the grocery stores. And ask your neighbors, friends, family, if they need anything. So, again, I say God bless you and thank you. And I'll see you next week. Okay, bye.